states. As you see there, I think it was 6 different states or 5 different states that we received applications. So, unfortunately, as the economy gets worse, our applicant flow is increasing for the positions that we have. The one good thing to note from this is that the turnover rate for the third quarter of this year was 2.35%, which is a huge improvement versus last year, which it was at 5.3%. So that's a pretty significant improvement. We've had several activities throughout this last quarter. We've had lunch and learns, dinners and discoveries, financial fairs, teach people how to buy homes, all those different things, seminars to improve people's life and wellness. We are currently working on revisions with MTSU. We work pretty closely with Dr. Hine. He has a group of students, graduate students, who occasionally he will call us and say, do you have a project that these students can work on? And we have 31 job descriptions that they are working on, which we finished the middle of December. And so far this year, we've already revised 16 positions and created 6 new job descriptions based on job titles. We had a new employee suggestion, our 10th employee suggestion that came about, and this was actually an individual who works for the health department who made the suggestion of having one supervisor to oversee the cleaning of the health departments throughout Rutherford County, as opposed to having a separate one for each facility. The committee has not met on this suggestion yet, but we hopefully will be able to give you information on the next quarter's meeting. The sheet, the long sheet that you have in your packet, this is an audit. We completed an audit of our office. We took all the laws in the state of Tennessee that relate to governmental entities as they relate to the human resources side. We pulled all the laws and the requirements of every one of those laws, and then reviewed our operations to see things that we needed to improve on, things that we were doing correctly, we may be behind reporting and those type things. This is just a recap. It's for your information only. We've already started implementing, and as you see under the compliance issues, I don't think we had we didn't have any compliance issues as of date, so we are in compliance with all the laws that it requires. There's just some reports that we're going to need to make it a little more effective for us, but this is just so that you know that we're in compliance with all of those laws.
Can we go back up to one?
Sure.
Like the 16 revisions
Yes.
have been completed and researching 6 new job descriptions. I guess that's just tweaking what the the job description for what, maybe a police officer or is this inner offices like building codes or something, or is this teachers, or what is?
Well, it won't be any of the teachers or any of the sheriff's office, because they handle all of
so
those internally. It's county general, and it is the other elected officials, with the exception of the sheriff's office.
Okay.
What we did last year, and you may or may not recall, is we went back and revised job descriptions from 1995 to 2004 last year.
Right.
And this year we're doing from 2005 to 2008, because we're wanting to get on an every other year cycle of updating our revisions. And it may be that something doesn't need revision,
And it'll be a constant
but
tweak.
technology, those type things.
Yeah.
The 6 new job descriptions are in reference to positions that may happen at some later point, that we're just looking to see what would be the characteristics we'd be looking for.
Okay.
That's what that is.
And the one other thing back on the 2.35 that you mentioned in the turnover, that's within ourselves, turnover.
County general.
Yes, okay.
It excludes the sheriff's office and the board of education, but includes everyone else with the information.
You're saying it was 5 this time last year?
Yes,
Okay.
it was.
Good deal. Yeah.
Okay. We conducted in our office a survey. The other 2 things that you should have some papers like this. I mean, there's 2 packets. I wanted just to measure, based on the time frame that I've been in this position, with the employees within the county and the department heads. We came up with a survey. Katie McClure, who was an intern in our office, she created and conducted the survey for myself and for Elena. We went through and asked questions about what we could do better and how. We questioned the supervisors separately from the employees just so we could see if we were actually assisting the supervisors in a format that they needed. For the supervisors, 21 of the 28 department heads responded, so we felt pretty good about that. That was 75% rate. And of the employee population, 119 of the 557 that we directly serve responded, so that was 21%. A little bit lower than we would have liked for the employee population, but the one thing we have to remember is not everybody has an email address, those type things. This is for your review to look back and see the areas where they felt like we needed to improve. There are a couple of areas that they made comments and we have already adjusted those. The one thing is, I'm trying to think back. One thing that they mentioned is the handbook went into effect July 1 and they didn't have a copy. There was a small glitch with that. The day that we actually brought that before the commission, June 26th, I believe it was, our computer went down in our office and it was on my Z drive and it wasn't up and running for 10 days. So I couldn't get it off to post it because I couldn't post it until it was approved. So I wanted you to be aware of why that was that way. And they just gave us several comments that we've been working on.
It's like the retirement planning. A lot of folks haven't been in that.
Well, and on the retirement planning, we set up last year every quarter, and we have our representative go out. Now, we do have a new representative. Alan Sheets is our new nationwide rep, and he's been doing a really good job, but we have him coming out quarterly. We send the notice out. We send out flyers, and so it's not that we haven't been doing it, yeah. It's just that they've not been participating. We are also doing financial fairs, and the last quarter will be on retirement. No, I take that back. The first quarter will be on retirement. The last quarter is on college planning. So, but that's some of the areas on knowledge and service. And the one thing that was mentioned in here, sometimes that people call and they can't get an answer. Well, when there's only two of you and you're both on the phone, unfortunately, we can't always get to that, but that's very rare. I think there was only one comment of that.
That's good. Number 13, you had 100%.
Which survey?
Feeling comfortable using the HR department.
Okay.
That's good.
I'd like to call the attention here that that the department heads that and elected officials that did participate in this were Mac Nolan, Wanda Watkins, Tracy Hill, John Bratcher, Roger Allen, Doug DeMasi, Ted Beatty, and Mike Nunley. Is that correct?
That's the ones who chose to give their name. There were 21 department heads that participated, and they could put their name at their discretion if they wanted to. They didn't have to because the whole thing wasn't about us knowing who filled it out. It was about us getting the feedback. We wanted people to be as honest, but they could, so those were the people that gave us their names. That is, I think, my final couple of final points. Just want to let you know that our EAP, our new EAP, is doing really well. We got our first quarterly report, and they have already served 223 employees and their families, with 118 of being those new cases for this quarter. So we felt like that was really good. And the services range, they're broad. They're a little bit all over across the board. So one thing that you may or may not have remembered was we started online training also so that we could meet all the departments since there were two of us. And in August we did the employee handbook training, so everybody would get handbook training. And this next quarter is sexual harassment, and that's due to be out. Last thing I wanted to tell you about is we've been doing the Biggest Loser program for the last couple of years. We're actually in our 7th season, and the participation, while we've had pretty good participation of applicants, is starting to slow down, and we've changed it and tweaked it several times to make it more interesting, added new activities, changed the number of weeks, different things to encourage people to want to stay on the program, because we start off with 12 and like right now we're down to 7. So we want to ensure that people are staying, and we don't want them to do it just for the money. We want them to do it because we want them to have a healthier lifestyle. With our EAP, one of the new kits that was available was a Eating Thin for Life program. And it's a book. It has a workbook. It has cookbooks. It has journals, all these different things that goes with it. And Lois Miller and myself have been talking with the EAP and also the wellness coordinator, Kelly Perrin, about changing from the Biggest Loser program to the Thin for Life program and utilizing our wellness dollars that we have been using for the Biggest Loser towards this. Every member would get one of these, and this hasn't been finalized. I'm just interjecting that it's something that we're wanting to do. Each of the participants would get a workbook kit, and the kits are $50, which is part of our wellness program that we already have set up in place, so that wouldn't be like additional revenues that would be going out. And similar to the smoking cessation, if they don't finish the program, they have to repay the $50, which is how the Care Here way is set up. That way you pay $50 to start. When you complete it, they reimburse you $50, and if you don't complete it, you don't get it back. But we were hoping that this might be a new give back from our department and also the wellness coordinator, something new and interesting. So I wanted to make each of you aware of this, that this may be something that's coming across the board later, just so that you would have been made aware of it before it actually comes out, that it was something we were considering. Do you have any questions for me?
Just one, Mr. Chairman, if I could. Sonia, the survey that you did is kind of impressive, especially since you guys put that together yourself. Is this something that you're planning on repeating on a annual basis? Any particular written plans of action, anything that you're working on? You're taking this and you're putting together something, right?
It's part of my business plan for 2010.
That's one kind of quick suggestion, that when you issue this next year, if you would maybe have some type of preface on this that would indicate this is what it showed last year, this is what we did, and just asking for additional feedback. One of the fallacies of a program like that is that someone has long memories. They'll bring up the same thing for the next 15 years, even though you think you've worked on it. So unless you can remind them that this is what we worked on this past year, and they're asking for feedback on how we did.
Okay, that's a great suggestion. I wouldn't have thought to have stated it that way. And if you look through here, and anytime you want to drop me a note, if you think of a question that maybe we didn't think of, that would be a good question to ask. I'm open to suggestions.
I got another question. The department heads or the elected officials that didn't respond, who were they? You don't know?
Because we set it up
Well, that's
to
pretty,
where it could be anonymous,
Yeah.
and the whole point was we wanted them to be truthful.
yeah. I'd like to see all of them, but I understand that some people are not going to do things.
Good job.
Yeah, Sonia, I want to kind of follow up on Commissioner Phillips' comments. First of all, the fact that it's coming compliments from a human resources guy himself about doing this is, I think, says a lot. But you know, this is not something the commission directed you to do, even thought of. I don't think I even knew that you were doing this. This was completely a proactive, self-started kind of thing, and really compliments to you for doing this. This can weed out problems before they start, and I want to express my appreciation to you for doing this, and I do look forward to following up on it. There were some good constructive comments, I think, throughout here that would be helpful for follow-up action on, and it's really a great idea.
It also puts, I mean, it puts her out on that limb, but
There's a few people that don't like me.
well, I mean, but it shows willingness for her
To examine
to
yourself.
examine yourself out there, and
Yeah.
it's Not too many people do that.
I agree. I can't think of another department in the county that does a survey
Yeah.
like this, that so scrutinizes itself. So good job.
Well, thank you. In the future, are there any things in my recap, my quarterly report that you would like to see that I'm not giving you now? Okay. Thank you.
All right. Sonia, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the report, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion, and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, we will move on now to the next agenda item, a private act for county attorney. And I believe that came with our agenda, a proposed private acts of 2010, county attorney for Rutherford County, Tennessee. I don't know, Mayor, if you have any comments that you're going to make, if you're welcome to join us at the table here, but
I'm certainly happy to participate, ask any questions they choose to ask.
okay. All right, go ahead, Commissioner Ron.
Mr. Chairman, Mayor can probably address this. I know here in the last few days or few weeks, there's been some questions that have been asked, and I think today in the paper there was some questions asked, and I think the commissioners have got some information in our mailboxes as of, I guess, today, concerning, well, one thing is the county commissioners' approval process when hiring a county attorney. Not a county attorney, an outside attorney. Can you address that?
I will address that as best I can. Let me say this. I mean, there were 2 points, 2 fundamental points in the editorial today, plus the information you have in your packet there. And one is about under what terms can one hire outside counsel, and certainly the second one was about indemnifying the county attorney, or at least defending the county attorney on litigation that's placed against him and the county and or other employees or appointed officials, etc. Okay, I mean, I have made a few notes, and I will address those as clearly and as respectfully as I possibly can. I'm not opposed to, the primary objective I have is to do everything we humanly can to put in place an agreement that's thorough, complete, concise, clear, simple, and understandable. And coupled with that, the overriding thing is whatever we do has got to be in the best interest of the county. That's what we all have, why we're here, is to do what we can to be sure that we're doing everything possible, proactive, to be sure that we've put into place an agreement that contains all the provisions that do everything humanly possible in the best way to protect the interest of the county. Now let's talk about hiring outside counsel just for one moment. If there were any possible way that I could craft something, and maybe somebody else can, a process whereby this would be practical, timely, and not put at risk the defense of lawsuits that's filed against this county, I'm for it. I just want to be sure we can do that. I haven't found a way, I think, that it makes it practical, timely, and without putting our county's defense at risk, substantial risk. And let me just point out a few things, and all of you have to fully understand I'm not an attorney, and our county attorney is out of town, so I'm here alone here tonight, but we can have this discussion as we need to. First of all, I was going to point out 2 or 3 things. First of all, there are certain time frames in which we have to respond to lawsuits. And sometimes, frequently, these would not allow time for the commission to meet before the outside counsel is needed. Now, one can say we could call a special meeting to do this. And yes, we could always call special meetings of the county commission. Federal lawsuits require 20 days to answer. State lawsuits require 30 days to answer. We typically meet within 30 days. We don't meet within 20. Yes, again, we could call a special meeting. If injunctive relief is requested, the time to respond can be as little as 5 days. 15 days or less, depending on the situation. Now, let's suppose we called a special meeting to discuss this, to hire an outside county attorney, because our in-house or our county attorney through this agreement is either conflicted or not equipped, not experienced, or some other reason is not appropriate for that person to handle this case. All cases are fact specific. Every case is different. And a law firm which might be good to hire in one case may be completely ill-equipped in another case. One has to know what the cases are about, what specialties or what substantial experience or practice a particular firm has had in place to properly and thoroughly and completely defend the county. That's what this is all about. That's what our objective must be. There are firms that we're even using today outside of the Cope firm that's especially equipped to handle, for example, lawsuits with inmates, federal lawsuit. And the Cope firm is handling very few of those. So we've made a conscious decision from time to time, in this case in specific, it's the Lightner Williams firm, Mr. Randy Mantooth being a specific person, that's handling all of those because they are better equipped, far better equipped. And we get these lawsuits filed routinely. I mean, it's not like it's one or two every day, but every few days there's another one, an inmate or some case that we have to address. Now, we don't want to be in a practice of having to take every one of those cases every time back before you people and say, Mr. Mantooth's the best person to do this, we recommend this. It's not practical. Now, here's the most problematic thing in the whole process, I believe. This is my opinion. Let's suppose a lawsuit's been filed against the county. And this may be these cases I think we're concerned about would be those cases that are substantially difficult and complicated and have serious potential impact for us. And we want the most well-equipped, experienced person we possibly can to handle that case for us. How do we determine who that person is? The way we've got this structured and the way we've been doing this, the county attorney who has a whole group of folks around him that know other firms and other people and other specialties, and they have some understanding about how we can review these cases. We can have some iterative discussions with these attorneys and try to determine, and we have to disclose to them through this discussion what this case is all about and what some of the merits are, what some of the issues are, what some of the points are. We have to have some give and take here to understand and to determine if they're really equipped to properly defend us. Do they have the experience? Do they have the knowledge? Do they believe they can help us? You can't have that discussion in a public forum. I mean, it's just no way to have a practical public discussion about the merits of the case, the issues of a case, and whether a firm thinks they can defend us properly without getting into that discussion. We cannot allow that public discussion to take place without putting at risk, seriously putting at risk, our ability to properly defend our lawsuit. And I just don't think there's any way to handle that side of it. Yes, okay, you can say we'll go into executive session. Well, you can go into executive session certainly to do these kinds of things, but in executive session, first of all, there can only be communication between the attorney and an individual person. There can be no communication between any of the other people that are in that discussion. There can be no deliberation. There can only be a series of a question back and forth. Answer, question, answer, question. Now, yes, that might be one thing you can do, but again, even in that discussion, you've got this whole group of folks having to address substantially the merits of a case in not a public forum, but at least 21 people and the attorneys would know what's going on. Then you've got to come out of session and without deliberation, well, you can deliberate, you're going to deliberate, but you can't have any full disclosure and discussion of the case and why this person is better than this person and this firm is better than this person without putting at risk again your ability to defend that lawsuit. And I think for those practical common sense reasons, I don't know how to make it happen. And I just respectfully think that the approach that we've suggested is the only reasonable, workable approach at this moment. If somebody else has got some magic potion they can put on this, I'm ready for it. I mean, I'd be happy to support that.
Tell
Now-
me, Mr. Mayor, what is that decision then? I'm sorry. I just,
What,
to clear it up, is it
What we
between the
have-
mayor and the county attorney then to make that decision?
it's, the agreement says this, that it is understood. This happens even now. The county attorney is directing the placement of these lawsuits even now.
Right.
So this is really the practice that's been going on for at least 26 years. It is understood that the office of the county attorney may place certain cases or legal matters that present unique circumstances, such as a conflict of interest or the need for particular expertise with outside counsel chosen by the county attorney in consultation with the county mayor. That's the language that's in there now. And I don't have the wisdom at this moment to suggest something that's workable without jeopardizing our ability to properly defend our lawsuits, and that's the last thing we should do.
That's under the Private Act of 57 then?
No, sir, that's under the proposed legal services agreement.
Okay.
That's the terminology of the proposed agreement.
Guys, let me also interject something here too, and that is, tonight we're dealing with the private act as it's the proposed private act here, and we need to do something with that, I think. These are provisions, the dealing with the hiring of outside counsel arguably could be included as part of the private act. I mean, Section 3 talks about additional agreements with private attorneys and law firms for the provision of additional legal services. So I think it probably is appropriate to have that discussion about hiring outside legal counsel and who's responsible, who's ultimately has the approval for it. I would say, though, that if we've referenced already the legal agreement that we talked about in September. That contains a lot of the detail about the particular way that the services are to be provided and that sort of thing. So what I would caution us, I guess, to do is avoid getting into remaking the legal services agreement tonight versus we're just looking at the amending the private act itself.
Well, and the reason I brought it up was because of the actual Section 3 there that you spoke about, knowing that in the 1957 private act that it did state in there that it would be the Rutherford County Commission and
Quarterly court.
Court, correct. And knowing that there has been some commissioners that spoke about it at our last meeting, I know a few of the commissioners spoke about it, and knowing that the paperwork that we received in our mailbox, and knowing that some issues have been brought up as far as in the newspaper and things, I felt like that we need to discuss it again tonight, and that's why I brought it up. And because I want to do, and just like anybody else up here, want to do the right thing, and I want to protect the citizens of the county. I don't want to open us up to any more. Basically, what you're talking about is we would be opening up discovery for an attorney to be able to discuss in a lawsuit.
It would have that potential. I mean, for you to make a good choice, you need to talk issues and the potential merits of the case and all the weaknesses, strengths, and whatever's with a qualified attorney to see if they're capable of and equipped to handle that particular suit.
Mr. Chairman, Mayor, to kind of get myself back on track for what we're trying to accomplish, I thought the major function was to rehire first our attorney, Jim Cope, for a 2-year term while we work this out and get this, I guess, this private act changed. And that gives us time. That gives us basically 2 years to try to get this redone, figured out, worked out, where everybody on 21 county commissioners is happy for sure, and the mayor, as well as we're setting a basis here for us to hire our own and have in-house, so to speak, our own Rutherford County attorney. which is really, I see what we've done for years is we've hired an attorney that represents us as our county attorney on a as-need basis or as a pay type situation for the contract that we have set up for a 2-year contract. I'm thinking that's what all this is about, is we're really trying to have everything in place so when we do hire an attorney as a full-time county employee attorney in whatever office of this courthouse or whatever building we put them in, that we've got all of our T's crossed and all of our I's dotted, if that's a possible thing to do, which it's not, but I mean, we're going to try our best to do that. Am I right as far as what we're trying to do?
Let's review that just a little bit. Let's review what the commission has done. In September commission meeting, this legal services agreement was approved. In October, knowing that the legal services agreement can't actually be put in place until the private act is changed, in October, we simply hired the county attorney again for a 2-year period under the same terms he's been hired for the last 26 years.
Right.
So that's where we are today.
Which
Now,
that in turn, I think, makes that agreement really kind of null and void, or it's not, for better terminology, it's not really worth anything right at this point, because we can't do this before we do the private act. We've got to do the private act first.
That's the next point.
Okay.
So this agreement cannot be put into effect until such time as we change the private act, and that's this simple private act, which says that the Rutherford County Commission will basically, through a written agreement with whoever it is, will determine and define how the county attorney functions, what their role is, what their duties are, how they're paid, the whole thing. So all this is on the agenda tonight is to, if we change the private act to say that the Rutherford County Commission, Board of Commissioners will have the ability to, through a written agreement to whatever county attorney they so choose, firm or otherwise, then this agreement could be put in place.
Why?
Now, this agreement here is a stepping stone. It's a plan that moves us from where we've been with no definition of legal services to a definition of what we're doing, what we're paying, and where we're going. Ultimately, hopefully at the end of this period of this agreement's first 2 years, the initial term, we would be in a position then to actually go in-house with our own staff attorneys.
Who is our county attorney going to, I guess, what committee are they going to report to when they're in a full-time position under the full commission? A steering or?
That's up to the commission to decide. I would guess it's going to have to start with steering. I mean, I would suppose that's probably the like. But we'll have a whole separate new set of agreement. Now, the scope of the services that person is going to provide or that office is going to provide is largely outlined. It's just the scope of the services, and that will be accomplished through a job description, through an agreement, through whatever. But it could likely, I suppose, the most likely committee it would report to would be this.
Well, my thing, and it seemed like it's gotten all kind of blown out of proportion or whatever because of, it was the time frame that Jim Coates' contract come up. All at the same time, we're talking about this and we're talking about that. You know, I think it all got blurred, or at least in my vision, it got blurred because really our main focus was to get Jim Coates back in a contract form for 2 years while we work on this and be ready to hire somebody. And it could be, I mean, at that point, Jim Coates may apply to be our county attorney, you know, or something. I don't know, you know, or anybody could be.
We thought it was important to put something in writing, document something as to what his responsibilities are. There have been a number of issues about the way he's been paid, he's been compensated. That's not been written down anywhere. This document does this. It clearly does this, and it's reasonable, it's workable, it saves the county substantial dollars, and it puts us in a position to develop a model, just like you said, of where we want to go at the end of this period. And we don't have to ever execute this document. We can leave it just like it is. We don't even have to change the private act. We can just run 2 years with no agreement At the end of the 2 years, you can decide what you want to do, how you want to do it, if you want to do it. We thought this was a normal way to have an exit strategy, a plan that would put in place a workable, doable plan that addresses delinquent tax collection, it addresses hourly rates, the whole thing, and save us. We've been repeating up to $100,000 in 2 years. I think it's probably as much as $100,000 a year through the course of us being transitioning to our own in-house attorney. Yes, we got the horse before the cart, but this is a workable agreement. It's doable, it's practical, it's sensible, and it can't function without a private act change. And we can do that, and then after the private act is done, then you can use this agreement or any other one you choose. But you need an agreement to define what the county's attorney's duties, responsibilities, and compensation is.
We touched upon it there in section 3 while we're there then. I mean, we can go all the way back through, but I mean, that was one of the issues right there with the county attorney that's in place, and I'll have to assume that's in place now, while this is being processed or done, and once we change the private act, then would the county attorney also be paid in some way, form, or fashion in trying to find an attorney that will best be suited for whatever lawsuit there is, and then that'd be an accessory or an additional bill on top of that?
He only gets paid for those issues in those cases where litigation takes place.
That he's involved in.
That he's involved in himself. Now,
Which that's the way it is now.
Yeah, as far as advising us on what outside counsel we need, I mean, that's part of his duties.
Yeah.
That's under the general scope of services.
Yeah, okay.
Just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. 'Cause
That's what I'm trying to make sure we all are.
I may have gotten a little, I thought I knew where we were. I just want to make sure. September, we approved that agreement. October, I'm not sure what we did in October, except that we approved Mr. Cope and his firm for a 2-year extension.
As if this agreement never existed.
As if that agreement never exists. The problem is that agreement still exists.
It exists, but it has not been
I
executed.
understand that it hasn't been signed or executed.
And it's null and void.
But it is null and void until this gets passed.
That's right.
My thought is, I guess I was under the impression that that agreement needed to come back through once this got approved.
I think so.
But I don't believe is that the impression you
Well, I
had?
mean, I don't think we've discussed that.
We have not, yeah.
No, I mean, you'd have to change the date on this. It says it's effective November the 1st. It can't be effective November the 1st. The only thing in there that really have to be changed is the effective date. If you approve this.
So then that agreement, as of November's today,
Yeah,
is
well,
null and void because of the date on the agreement.
Yeah, and
And plus he hadn't signed
it
it.
cannot be
Well,
an active agreement until the private act is
I
changed.
agree. I mean, I understand that, but I guess what I was thinking is in February, we're not going to have an agreement that has been sitting on the shelf. I just want to make sure that we are going to have to see that agreement again in here and in the full commission before it is executed.
That's what I'm thinking, but I don't think that's what the mayor just said.
Well, I mean, I've just said you've got to change the effective date, but I don't know what else in here needs to be changed per se as such, except whatever you choose to change. Anytime you choose to change something, you can change it.
I think the main thing is it's not retroactive. When we went,
Now,
once
Mr.
the
Cope said-
private act is done or changed, then that's not automatic. He signs it, and that's what we're doing. That's got to come back through us.
What about this? And I'm just thinking out loud here. To make it a clean break, or clean this thing up, if the county commission was to go on record to make this null and void, the agreement, make it null and void until a private act is passed, and then come back and then whatever agreement is worked up at that time, would that make it clean?
I would say so. That would sure make me feel a lot better.
I think so.
It comes back through subject to amendment. 21 commissioners can make whatever change or propose any change that they might want to make.
Because seriously, there's a couple things in there I'm not comfortable with, but like I said, I had to leave early that night, didn't get to vote on it. So, I mean, but to me, it seemed like what we did in October, put Jim Cope in for 2 years, made this null and void anyway. And our focus then is changing the private act of 57, however we want to do that. And then this right here once we do get it done, they go back in session next year, whatever, February, March, April, I don't know when it gets done, then that can be run through the mill or come through steering, send it on to full commission, it's done again. If there's no changes, there's no changes. If there is, there's changes.
So if a motion was made tonight to null and void the agreement that was made on September the 17th, 2009, that passes through as null and void. We turn around and a motion is made to do the private act, the new private act. If any changes are made to, if any amendments are made to the agreement, that would have to be done to the agreement at that time.
Well,
Is that what I'm understanding?
I think this is going to have to change a little bit, so we may have to wait until Mr. Cup gets back in, because your first thing in section 1 says the prior private act creating and establishing the office of the county attorney, blah, blah, blah. You know, that automatically, it's already referring back to this, I think.
No, this right here refers to the 1957.
Oh, it's referring back to 57, okay.
Yeah. We've done nothing since 57.
Right.
Okay.
So this just makes that null and void and puts this in place. When this is approved, you need to concurrently have whatever agreement you're going to have ready to put into place with the effective date that you actually adopt by your vote of the Board of Commissioners, the 2/3 vote, the private act. That needs to be brought together. So if it's February, whatever, you have to have those things coming together at that point. So you do have an agreement that the commission approves that does mirror what the written agreement allows here in this private act.
Right. So once this gets back to the state, it can be nullified, and then the agreement be on the agenda right after.
And the private act still won't be in effect either until you have a 2/3 vote on it. And concurrent with that, you should have your agreement, your legal services agreement, adopted at the same time.
Mr. Chairman, do we need a motion to make that null and void, that agreement null and void that passed in October, or is it null and void because of the date that's on it anyway?
Yeah, the commission's action was to approve the agreement. I think it would be absolutely clear, like I think Commissioner Farley said, that if we pass a resolution to say we're going to rescind the legal services agreement, although it's dated that, I mean, there could be some discrepancy or some argument whether that's a revocation or not. To make it absolutely clear, it probably would be a good thing to do, to go ahead and just make that resolution, make a resolution and forward it on to rescind that for now until we get the private act in place.
With that, I'll make the motion that we rescind the September 17, 2009 written agreement until we get a private act passed through the state legislature in this coming legislative session.
Are you proposing that this is the private act amendment that is?
Well, I think some other
We'll
commissioners.
probably deal with that in just a
Do that
second.
separately. Okay.
Your motion is, for clarification, to rescind the September 17th, 09 legal services agreement until a private act is passed through the legislature this session.
Correct.
That's your motion.
Can I suggest one thing? Just lop it off after you say just rescind the legal services agreement,
Yes.
period.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I want to just make it clear and clean.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I know this isn't a public hearing, but we've got 4 county commissioners in the House. I don't know if it'd be appropriate if they had any comments about these things that we're talking about, if there's something else we need to get on the table and straighten out. But I mean, it might cause a lot less trouble in another meeting if we can handle it here. I don't know if there is or not, don't know if you want to do it or not. I know it's not a public hearing, but I just thought I'd mention that. So, if these county commissioners have any other questions or anything.
Commissioner
Yeah,
Phillips looks like he wants to say.
well, I've got a question written all over my face, and I'm not real sure I know how to ask this thing. I've had this feeling for the last couple of months that there have been objections, and people have raised objections to the process. And a couple of comments that I've heard is that, I don't know how to say this, and because I'm not sure it's 100% accurate, but no one is objecting, or at least the ones I've talked to, aren't objecting to where we want to go. But just this how we're getting there. And I'm thinking that we're all wanting to get in to the same spot in a couple of years. And I think that's what the mayor has tried to do.
Right.
Is tried to put this 2-year process in place to get us to where we want to go. And it's 2 years compared to what we've had for 40 years, I guess, since 1957. And that's where I keep getting hung up. I'm not real sure that I understand why there's so much objection to putting some things in some detailed agreement that we've never had before. And you know, this 1957 law is, we looked at this maybe 4 years ago. It's 3 years ago now, I think, Mr. Chairman, that we haven't been abiding by that agreement for as long as I've been up here. I mean, that agreement to me is just as good as null and void because we don't adhere to it. I mean, it had some salaries and some terms that we were supposed to be paying that we've not done. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mayor, in so many years that it just made that thing kind of useless. So we've been going along without really any agreement, and now some of us are trying to say, well, we should be adhering to it, at least parts of it, and then maybe not other parts of it. And you know, the more we get into this, maybe the more confused that I get about this whole system or situation. But you know, kind of reading this over, and then listening to some comments that the mayor has to offer, I'm thinking that we're still kind of wanting to get in the same position a couple of years from now. And Mr. Coate and his firm has, I think, kind of generously agreed we'll continue to serve the county just like we've been serving the county. And I'm not even asking that we do anything different. And I don't have you to sign a contract or anything else. I'll just continue to do what we've been doing. And we seem to be getting all hung up on, well, we need this private act, we need these legal services, and what's getting so confusing to me is that a lot of things have changed. We as commissioners are all elected by a particular group of folks, our neighbors. And the mayor is elected by the entire county. And I think that there should be some authority that he has to make some decisions as the head of this government, the head of this county government, without maybe having to bounce everything off of us. And I think we're kind of getting to that direction at some point in time in a couple of years. Of course, the county attorney, when they really are a county attorney and work for us full time, we're hoping that we will overcome a lot of obstacles that we've run into the last few years. So I'm thinking we're trying to get in the same particular spot. And if making this thing null and void means that we'll bring it back up again at some point in time and have it ready to go to enact that, does that have to go before the legislature so we can just enact that?
That's our deal, yeah.
If this passes, this updated private act passes, then I think there's something that needs to be put in there that what we're trying to do is to put this legal services agreement in place at the same time. And I know that might get a little bit confusing, but I think that might be really what we need to do, is say, this thing, if we want it to come back and want to make changes to it, if that's what needs to happen, I'm okay with all that. But I'm just not real sure that we need to kind of go on forever and ever, and that's overstated, I'm sorry, but we need to continue to go on without discussing this over the next couple of months and having a document ready to go when this comes back from the state, and then we can vote on it. And right after we vote on that, then vote on adopting this that we've discussed, and not only in this committee, but at the full commission vote. So I don't know what all I've said other than, I just don't think we ought to ignore that, though. I really think that we ought to not wait until January or February to begin that discussion process. We ought to begin that fairly quickly.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
No, I was thinking the commissioner said it, I mean, perfectly basically what you were saying, that we're all trying to be on the same page and do what is in the best interest for Rutherford County. So, I surely hope, and I've apologized to a couple commissioners already from last month. Man, I was not trying to open up a can of worms. I was a commissioner on the outside looking in of what was done and read what it was, and what I saw was that it didn't incorporate, the county attorney, which I was thinking that's what our main function was. That's what we were doing, was putting him in so November 1 didn't lapse, and we have Jim Cope as county attorney for a 2-year term. Again, while we get all this stuff straightened out and how there's not a rush here. There's not a push here. I mean, we need to make sure that document is correct, which, some of them are coming back. I had reservations about it, but I didn't get to voice those. This here, we can talk about this here in just a second to make sure this is the way we want it. But we have, and I don't want to say 2 years because we do want to, I think, get it in front of our legislators here when they come back in session in January, February, so we can get this back and have this ready. But I don't think we need to drop the ball on this neither. If there's concerns out of any of the 21 county commissioners, we pull it out and we talk about it and we get it worked out. And then when we do get it approved, like you said, we're ready to go, and have that already worked out. So instead of a last minute, feel like we're pushing it in a hurry or a rush or something, and that's not what we're about. That's not what we're wanting to do. I don't think any of us. So hopefully nobody got too upside down about it, and we're moving on.
All right. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, right? If you all, we're talking about the motion now to rescind this. Mayor, there was some hesitation. Is there any, you think we're running afoul here?
No, you weren't running afoul. I mean, you're perfectly in your right to do that.
Any downside to rescinding it that you can see?
No. This document, we spent a lot of time on. Many of us have for really more than just a month. It's been going on for a year. And I just really want to encourage all of us to put a legal service agreement in place.
Absolutely.
Concurrent with
Absolutely.
the change of the adoption of the Private Act. I think it's critical that we, for the first time in at least 40-something years, have an agreement that says what the scope of services are and how we're going to pay them, under what terms they're going to be paid. And we're going to save substantial dollars in the process, and it'll be more orderly and it'll be defined.
Yeah, with this motion, I certainly don't envision that we are throwing this legal services agreement out the window and starting new. I envision that beginning next month, we'll be looking at this legal services agreement as a framework to build on for discussion, debate about various provisions in it, and then move forward from there.
Absolutely.
And with that, and touch off on some things that another people here said, this county is at 250,000 people. Population, we're the 5th largest county in the state of Tennessee right now, and it won't be long we're going to probably be the 4th. We have got to do something. We haven't had something in 52 years, because I know how old that Private Act is, because it's the same age I am. Old. But the county attorney is basically a county employee. We treat him that way. The written agreement is going to be basically until we do go along and make it a full-time legal department for the county. This is basically what I look at it is his job description, is how I look at the written agreement. So we've got to do something. I think everybody understands that this county has got to move and become a full-time legal department. The numbers are there. There's no sense, because I know there's times when we have to meet with the county attorney as commissioners. I know the mayor meets with him quite often. The HR department that Sonny just left here, they meet department heads. And I know how beneficial it is, because where I work, the city has its full-time legal department, and it's an asset to when you have a personnel issue or when you have something pop up. to have those attorneys there to guide you and help you make those right decisions. So, with that, I'll be quiet.
Good comments. Okay.
I haven't had anybody argue otherwise, that we did not need to do this. I haven't had anybody argue that with me. I've had them argue and discuss, if it's a better term, provisions that are in there, but not the overall scope of what we're trying to get done. Yeah, they may be out there, but they're not calling me.
And the agreement will be shorter than 2 years. I mean, we'll modify the agreement to where it's concurrent with the 2 years that started November the 1st, and whatever written legal services agreement we get will be something shorter by several months. And then we'll be at the point where we can transition in an orderly way to our own in-house staff.
Mhm.
So whatever we do, as long as we don't make something tremendously big error, it's over. We put our own people in place.
All right, Becky, can I get you to read the motion one more time?
For clarification, rescind the 9/17/09 legal services agreement.
Okay. Y'all ready to vote? All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll move on then now to address the private act itself.
Motion approved, private act.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Commissioner Sandler.
Just a couple discussions then on it, since we got a motion and a second on the floor. If you could explain each section of this, the 1, 2, 3, and 4, because I think 1 is okay, but if you would, for us and everyone else out there, what 1 does.
All right. Mayor, do you want to tackle this?
Well, I might as well go ahead and take all the hits. I'll be the guy.
I'm kind of reading it here and trying to think at the same time. I don't do that very well.
Number 1 simply says the document that is passed February the 19th, 1957, Private Act 1957, Chapter 67, is repealed and held in no further force and effect. That's number 1. It's just that simple.
Okay, that's what I have.
It's replaced in its entirety with this right here. This is what we're doing
It's replaced with what?
with this private act that we're proposing to send for approval at the state legislature.
Okay, and where is that at?
This is it.
This is it.
Yeah, okay, this is,
Just
that's
one
what
piece
I
of
was
paper.
thinking, yeah. All right, let's go to number 2. I'm okay with 1.
The number 2 says the terms, conditions, all of these things that will define what a county attorney is done shall be set forth in a written agreement that the Board of Commissioners will approve,
Which is?
which is this one or some modification of this one.
Well, it won't be that one now, probably, but, I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Something that
It's
is
gonna be
the-
something like
it'll be
that.
some fundamental
Absolutely,
agreement
gotcha.
That's what it says.
Gotcha.
Number 2.
And they don't need that at the state.
No,
This is
Okay.
local here.
this local.
I understand.
This gives you, this is the beauty
Just
of this
opening the
thing.
door to change it, and we're gonna change it with
It
whatever
gives you
we
the
come up with.
flexibility to change this document as you need to change this document. Of course, at the end of 2 years or less, we think we'll transition to our own staff, so it won't be of any meaning anyway.
I think I need to probably preface that I'm not an attorney as well, so that's why I'm asking these questions.
They're good questions. Good
Now,
questions.
Number 3 sort of amplifies what's contained in this agreement, but it says Rutherford County can enter into additional written agreements with private attorneys for the provision of additional legal services as Rutherford County may deem appropriate.
As we go along through life and so need other outside legal, that's when it will be written into this agreement.
Yep, this agreement already addresses that, but you can change that or add
Okay.
to that as you so choose.
Okay.
Without changing your private act.
Okay,
And number 4 simply says, this is a private act, even though the state legislature approves it, it's not in effect until the Board of Commissioners by a 2/3 vote certifies this to the Secretary of State. That's all it says.
gotcha.
It's extraordinarily simple.
I'm clued in. Thank you very much.
That's good.
The old private act, and it's been a while since I've read that and seen that, but that old private act spelled some things out, once again, that we're not adhering to and haven't been for a long time. This one is more I don't mean to say a living document, but more of a flexible document that gives us the opportunity to make changes without changing that private act and going through the state to do that.
Every time, that's correct.
So we would have the opportunity to discuss it in committee, make presentations before the full commission, and make those decisions. And that's what this document does.
Got a question, and the question may come up from somewhere else, but I'm going to ask it. It says here, legal service as Rutherford County may deem appropriate. Now,
He's gonna answer that. Go ahead. They were asking that very
If you want to
question.
make that the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners, put that in there if you want clarification. Nothing can happen without the Board of Commissioners.
I know, but what I'm saying though is, can that be deemed in the written agreement type deal? Or,
You don't, we could leave, with the proper legal services agreement, you don't really need Section 3. But Section 3 could address that. That's sort of superfluous. I think Mr. Coe put that in there just to reinforce the fact that the county can do that as they need to. But it's in the agreement, and you can change it. The Board of Commissioners is the only body that can change the agreement.
But Mayor, when you have an in-house, you might want to have an agreement with an outside firm, and you may want to have another agreement.
Thank you. That's a wonderful catch. Clearly, we will not be able to do everything in-house. So yes, we will need the ability to do that. Yes, even with an in-house attorney. No set of attorneys will be 100% able to handle all the particular issues that come before. That's a good catch. So even without this agreement, we will have to, even with our own attorney, we'll have to have that ability and that flexibility.
But Steve, your question is with the provision of additional legal services as Rutherford County may deem appropriate. Now, I mean, I consider that the only way Rutherford County can deem that appropriate is action by the full commission. But what the mayor said, and it's probably a good suggestion, is to make absolutely clear and clarify that any other legal services that may exist out there, that those would be with the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners as appropriate. Just include that language to make it absolutely clear that we're talking about the full commission approval.
We need an
of other legal
XYZ
services.
attorney for an XYZ case. And our attorney that we were having hired or whatever is a more, I guess, a standardized, all-around good attorney. But they doesn't specialize in XYZ that we need another.
that's why I brought up,
Yeah.
I mean, does that issue need to be, is it dealt with in the written agreement? Or does it need to be dealt with in the?
We do it both places. I mean, the attempt is to do it both places, and if you want to clarify it,
Move to amend Section 3 to put in commission after Rutherford County.
Second.
Okay, let's see, we have a motion to approve it. We've had a motion to amend it. How about if we combine those two into one motion that says approve it with the subject to an amendment that Commissioner Phillips suggested? Would that make it a little easier?
How about approve the private act, approve the private act as presented, amending Section 3 to include commission after Rutherford County?
Well, that would be, in any of this, it says Rutherford County.
No, it's limited to,
Say Rutherford County Board of Commissioners, to be consistent.
yeah, that's
Because it starts up, as far as Rutherford
you would
County
just-
previously adopted. That means the Rutherford County Commission previously adopted. I mean, I don't know.
you
I'm
will
just-
muddy the
Like I
water.
say, you
that
get
up there is just preamble. Let's don't worry
too
about
too
that.
deep, so I'd be
Section
done.
Just change
Rutherford
section.
County
Section 3 is
Board
all
of
you need to
Commissioners.
change.
I'll put the whole paragraph in here, but just put Rutherford County Board of Commissioners may deem
That's it.
appropriate.
Okay, So-
Forward to it.
who made the original motion?
Coggin,
Is that okay, Commissioner Coggan? And then who seconded it?
Phillips.
And then Commissioner Phillips, is that
Yes, sir.
suitable? Okay, so we have one motion, and that is what?
Amend the private act as presented, amending Section 3, and your last line down there will read Rutherford County Board of Commissioners may deem appropriate.
All right. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, well, that will be approved then and forwarded on to the full commission for review there. Okay, my favorite agenda item, any other business?
Well, just to
Oh, I'm
state,
sorry, wait a minute, I'm sorry, Commissioner Sanders.
that's all right, just to
Do you know
stay
about this?
clear on the, what we were talking about, what we rescinded. So we want to put that on the agenda here for next month then?
Absolutely.
And then, do you need that in form of a motion or something?
No.
So we,
I think we'll be sure to
Okay.
include that on the agenda next
Okay.
month. Discussion of legal services agreement.
okay. And might I say that, I don't know, all the commissioners be notified if there's issues in there that they would like to talk about to the county attorney or the county mayor, do so individually and privately, but then amongst themselves, so we're not breaking any sunshine laws or any questions about that, and it's done appropriately, you know, them one-on-one kind of thing.
Are you wanting that on the agenda?
No, just
or are you
mentioning
just-
that.
Okay. This was in the
Don't wait
file.
until
I don't know
our
if
meeting
you
time
can
next month.
correct.
Come up here and start arguing.
Really, we do that every month. That could be on the agenda every month.
Appointing
Yeah.
Really, until,
judicial commissioners.
Till we fix it.
Pretty
it'll
well.
probably be acted on in February, and
Do we have to
and we'll be able to do something
No,
in
we
March,
just
that'd be my
appoint them.
guess.
Do we have to publish it
So,
as an agenda?
I give it 4 months,
For
we
public
discuss it every single month.
Sounds good to me.
I'm looking forward to
Let's
all
talk
4
about it.
discussions.
I don't,
Let's talk about it.
they're routine appointments, but we can hold it till next month.
Can't wait.
That's January.
Just-
Well, I don't know, it was just in the
Okay.
file, so I didn't know if Vicki had talked to you about it or not.
I'm sorry.
He was thinking about asking you in place.
I don't know, they're judicial commissioners, I don't
He was thinking
know.
about
They have a
March.
4-year term.
Mr. Chairman, what you guys are discussing an item, I'd like to say that, just from my perspective, a lot of this conversation has been informative and actually kind of worthwhile, maybe to educate me a little bit more. I'd like to thank the mayor, his staff, and the ad hoc committee that was formed to put all this together and the work that went into that. But I also like to thank the RNA for all the bird dogging that they do. And even though that there are times when we're probably going to disagree about certain things, there are never a disagreement about what they do and how they are vigilant themselves about speaking up and speaking their mind and drawing the attention that we need to maybe pay a little bit more attention to certain things.
They're already,
Just say, good job, thank you guys.
they're already employees, so if you want to go ahead and appoint them, we can, and if there's a problem,
It
we
doesn't
can.
really matter unless their 4 years has expired and then they'll be without technical compliance. That's all, we don't know if it is.
The question is, do we have to, is this something we have to have?
You
Go
don't
ahead.
have to know, I think you have to, you really do, and I think it's not.
Okay. Okay, guys, I've got one more item under any other business. In the file was a memo from Judge David Lowry to the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners concerning the appointment of a judicial commissioner. The undersigned judge of the General Sessions Juvenile and Probate Courts of Rutherford County, Tennessee, hereby respectfully recommend that pursuant to the authorities contained in the Tennessee Public Acts of 1978, Chapter 933, the following be elected as judicial commissioners for the county for terms not to exceed 4 years, and such terms to conclude and terminate if and when the terms are concluded or the service with Rutherford County is terminated. And they've recommended Carolyn Overton and Lori Callender as judicial commissioners. I'm told by the mayor, I believe that these are reappointments.
Carol Overton, who?
And Lori Callender.
I think basically those, the judges recommend and the county commission just has to ratify it.
Right, that's right. I'll be glad to pass that along.
I'll make a motion that we appoint them judicial commissioners.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Any other business? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you, guys.